Welcome, listeners, to another enlightening episode of Curious Sellers Chronicles podcast, the place where we explore the essence of leadership and coaching in the 21st century. This is your host, Rohit Gautam. Today, we are embarking on a journey that hits close to home for many of us, a journey towards career happiness or just happiness. Whether you are at crossroads of your professional life, contemplating a leap of faith into a new career, or seeking ways to reignite passion in your current role, this episode is your compass, your guide, and your roadmap to a fulfilling career. In today's world, where our careers are more than just jobs, just a reflection of our passions and values, finding joy and fulfillment in what we do has never been more essential. It's about waking up each day feeling motivated, knowing that your work not only supports our lifestyles but also aligns with who you are at the core. To navigate this intricate path, we have with us a very special guest today, Antoni. Antoni is an experienced public speaker and leadership coach with over 20 years of experience in the IT industry. He currently speaks and facilitates workshops globally on how to cultivate happiness in individuals, teams, and organization culture to make happiness your company's superpower. He also partners with leaders to help them define their happiness journey and work through the challenges they face every day to make it their reality. But before we dive in, I would like to thank Abhyuda Global's Core Circle again, who are shaping world leadership through professional coaching. If you are looking to learn new skills in coaching and enhance your leadership skills, please get in touch with Abhyuda and check out their upcoming programs. I will leave the link in the description. Without further ado, let's welcome Antoni to the show. Hello, Antoni. How are you doing?
Fantastic. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks. Yeah, thank you for joining us today.
Of course.
And yeah, the special episode for happiness. The quest for career happiness is something that resonates with us.
Yes,
And
definitely.
yeah, and to kick things off, could you please introduce yourself? I had a little intro done anyway, but would you like to say why career happiness? Why you chose this path?
Why career happiness is, well, everyone deserves to be happy. And I've been in a lot of crappy workplaces over the past 2 decades in the IT industry. And I don't feel that anyone deserves to be in an environment where they need to be unhappy, where they wake up every morning dreading to go into work. Why not take advantage of the fact that you get to get up every day and be excited about what's going to happen at work, the relationships that you have obtained over that time, and being inspired by other people, by the work that you do and the things that are ahead of you.
Mm. So what made you go into this then focus more on this? Any personal experience you would you like to share?
So when it comes to personal experience, I spent years and I think we were discussing this earlier, 6 career changes. And I focused on careers that made me happy or that I felt made me happy. And the experiences that I went through have molded me to focus on my career happiness. There's been I have a ton of stories about shame and blame and burnout, things that I enjoy doing, and even just waking up in the morning and dreading to go into work. Um, all that is led me to career happiness, and in the end, I mean, I look at career happiness kind of like trying new foods. You don't know what you like until you try it, right?
Yeah,
So
true. Mm.
a lot of people think that we have to live in this old mindset where our parents used to go to work and stick at that job for the next 20 years so they can get a pension.
Mm.
When, the new landscape is we have the flexibility of learning from the internet, so we don't have to go to school necessarily to learn something specific, and B, we have the flexibility to go into any career that we feel might spark joy for us. So why not?
Mm. True. True. Why not?
Exactly, why not?
Why
Um,
not? Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
trying out different careers in order to find the one that is
Mm.
right for you, and I'm
Yeah.
I'm sure you're probably have this question on the backlog about passion.
Mm.
Um, you don't know what your passion is going to be unless you've tried a bunch of different things,
Yeah.
unless you've tried a bunch of careers that have sparked joy in you or have brought some sort of happiness to your life where you want to continue with it.
Mm. So how does this, obviously the career happiness we're talking about is more about the work culture, more about the organization as well. As individuals, like you mentioned earlier, we want to feel motivated to wake up and go to work. So how
Yes.
does this affect, the leadership we have, or we as leaders? Because we as coaches, we as leaders in organizations in different, I mean, we can call it hierarchical structures. We, as team managers or tribe leads or the CEOs or CTOs or C-suite. How can they directly influence an individual's career happiness?
Mm, it's a great question. I feel that leaders can best support people's careers through exactly that support.
Mm.
Support for higher learning, development. So, are they looking to keep that individual in the organization? If so, then why not train them to be the best that they can be? There's two separate mindsets, and one is if we train this person to be very good at what they do, they may leave.
Mm.
But on the flip side, it's like if we don't train this person, can we afford to lose them?
Yeah.
So having leadership be that main pillar of support for people during their career is pinnacle to someone's career.
Mm.
So having that learning and development in place is a huge part, and supporting the openness that they need to be able to grow. So having that open conversation, um, I guess you could say psychological safety
Mm.
to be able to speak your mind and be able to speak of the things that matter to you without having fear of, well, I better not say that because um, the that leader might can me or push me out the door because I said that one thing.
Mm.
Instead, leaders need to show their support by saying this is a safe space, this is open, and be curious. Be curious and be empathetic. Show empathy towards the people who are trying to grow in your organization and that you want to foster that growth. And through that, you will see that happiness will automatically emerge.
Mm. Yeah. So leadership landscape is changing from previous 20 years to now,
Yes.
right? With this, especially in today's world, 21st century is totally different. with a lot of
Totally.
things coming out like social media, AI, YouTube full of information as well. Like we have so much information available to us, and this is where probably leaders can help navigate the uncertainty better and create a, like you mentioned, psychological safe environment, like fostering their careers, fostering their happiness. And that made me think, I know you came up with smiling bow tie, I think this was called.
Yes.
Tell me more about it, or tell our listeners more about it as well.
Well, smiling bow tie came from my story of Bow Tie Wednesday,
Mm.
and to give you that short story, I woke up one day not enjoying my work. I was going into work, I was very miserable. It was sad and gloomy, and it was going on for a couple months. And one day I was like, I've had enough. I can't do this anymore. And so, as a fashion designer in past, I always seek to retail therapy to help lift my spirits.
Mm.
So I went to a local store and I started looking at their ties. And I noticed a bow tie, a green checked bow tie that made me smile for once in quite a while. And so I bought that bow tie, and that Tuesday night, I said, "The next day, I am going to wear that bow tie because it sparked some joy in me." So I walked in the next day to my work and wore the bow tie, big smile on my face, and people were asking me, "What's with the bow tie?" And I kept on telling them, "It made me smile when I purchased it, so I decided to wear it today to keep that smile." And it didn't just make me smile, but it had the people who were asking me smile as well. And then on top of that, they were it, the environment changed because of it. And so, because I saw this ad advantage of coming into work happy, I was like, how can I keep this going? How can I keep
Mm.
this momentum? And I had decided that on every Wednesday, I would wear a bow tie to commemorate that happiness. And over time, people were wearing bow ties on Wednesdays. People were dressing up, and it changed the environment, not just on Wednesdays, but on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday,
Wow.
because it was a catalyst to
Mm.
happiness for the rest of the week. And so through that story, smiling bow tie became what it is because of the symbol of that bow tie making others smile and making me smile, most importantly. I mean, every time I bring up the company name,
Mhm.
people smile.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I was thinking. Wow, what a great name that is.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And originally, I was leaning more towards um an agile type
Mm.
name, and I was
Mm.
going to name my company Lean Bow Tie,
Mm.
which is also great. But smiling bow tie was more for me.
Mm.
It depicted exactly what it is that I'm trying to do on this planet and defines my purpose
Mm.
exactly.
Nice. Brilliant. Very inspiring, Anthony. Very inspiring, actually.
Thank you.
So tell me more about the happiness blueprint, which we were discussing earlier, and then how it's linked to the smiling bow tie.
Yes, so the happiness blueprint is a it's not a framework or a set of principles. It's a tool that I've developed over time being a coach and using positivity experiments to touch on elements that I have found that brought happiness to teams.
Mm.
And this is a model called the impact model. And this is the the I guess you could say the underpinning for the happiness blueprint. And the impact model stands for inspiration,
Hmm.
mindset, power, which is empowerment, not power over others. Alliance, which is all about relationships. Care, which is about psychological safety. And T for transformation, because we
Mm,
always have to measure and iterate on everything it is that we do. So using these positivity experiments, you focus on, let's say, I want to focus on relationships and in alliance because the team members aren't working well together. So we would focus on creating different positivity experiments that would foster more relationships,
mm,
foster a tighter connection between team members. Now, over time, I also realized that the impact model can be used for personal use,
mm.
not just for teams.
Okay.
So, looking at it from a personal view, I mean, could you see yourself being inspired all the time? Are you inspired as much? Or do you need to work on that inspiration? If
Mm,
so, what are you going to do about it? How can you get inspired? And this is where, kind of like what I was telling you before, when it came to trying out different careers, kind of like food, it's the same thing. Trying out different exercises and different activities that you can do to foster more inspiration, to foster a better mindset, to foster more relationships, whatever the case may be.
mm, mm. So am I right in my thinking that these are the components you need to
Yes.
be happy, the feel happiness? Because it's all about feelings, right? So I want to feel happiness. That's my feeling. So these are the components I need, which you thought about these, in a happiness blueprint. So
Yes.
how does leaders then actually shape the culture of the organizations on this blueprint?
It's a great question. Looking at it from an organizational level, this would be more culture.
Mm,
So when you look at culture, are we inspiring our people? Are
mm,
we giving them the tools that they need to have an open mindset or
okay.
to change their mindset?
Mm,
Are we creating space for them to be psychologically safe?
mm,
Are we doing enough with regards to relationships? So are we having those get-togethers where we're not talking about work anymore? We're having fun. We're
mm,
playing and we are exposing each other to different personalities and different types of people. Um, it's all about inclusion at that point. So
mm,
at an organizational level, that's what it's about. And, the happiness blueprint works in that same fashion.
mm,
And when you have the blueprint, the happiness blueprint underpinning your culture, now all of a sudden people are coming into work happy
mm,
because they're working with people that they care about. They are doing things that inspire them. They want to come into work every day because they're doing purposeful work.
mm,
They're not
mm.
doing mundane work,
Yeah.
having been micromanaged. They have the space to be open. They
Mm,
have the space to discuss their thoughts, and people can think it through. And you know, curiosity, all those beautiful things that we all look for as practitioners. It's there. It's there
mm,
in the blueprint. If
mm,
we can focus on these elements, I have personally seen transformations in teams that I haven't not seen anywhere else.
mm. Yeah, I think it's more deeper, isn't it? It's not just coming in smiling.
Yeah,
When somebody say, "Oh, it's just the happiness." It's not about coming in and smiling. Internally, inwardly, you are not happy. I think this is what I heard is more deeper into me,
it
how I
is.
feel, right?
It's not
Yeah.
a external happiness, it's an
Yes.
internal happiness.
Internal. Yeah.
And not
Yeah.
only that,
Yeah.
we don't wanna look at
Mm,
it from a fleeting emotion.
Mm,
We want to look at it as, is this sparking joy in me?
mm,
When you see somebody show up at work with a big smile on their face, something is in them to foster that smile, to
mm,
foster that joy.
mm,
And if we all can show up that way, having that inner truth that sparks joy, that inner happiness, then work no longer seems like work.
mm. Yeah.
And spending a third of our waking lives at work,
Yeah.
this is, to me, something that's so crucial that we don't think enough or talk enough about.
Definitely. Definitely. That's why I asked you to come here and talk about it. We don't talk too much about this happiness, right?
No, we
Yeah.
don't. We
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah. So actually, you mentioned like because it's inwardly. So how does personal identity play a role in basically or finding a fulfilling career happiness or even fulfilling a career basically?
Mm. So, finding a fulfilling career, I guess you could say one has to start by being honest with themselves.
Mm,
Do I enjoy this job, or am I doing it for the money?
mm,
Do I, am I doing this job to, keep the roof over my head, or am I doing it because I feel comfortable? So when you start being more honest with yourself, that's when the true reality shows.
mm,
Once you started to be honest with yourself, then you can decide, does the work that I'm doing, does it fulfill me every day? If it doesn't, then find something that does.
mm,
Test out things. Talk to other people about different careers, different roles. See what sparks joy for you. And if something really intrigues you, then why not go for it? I mean, there was a time where I was in tech working as a, a DevOps engineer, and the thought of waking up to code did not spark joy for me.
mm.
And so I knew then and there, okay, things got to change. And I know the job isn't going to change, which means that I have to change myself.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
either have to find some joy in what it is that I'm doing, or change careers,
Mm,
go to a different role. And there's nothing wrong with that. And people may look at it where, oh, it may look bad on my CV,
mm,
uh, on my resume, and that's totally not the case, because now we live in a world where jobs are changing for most people every 1 to 2 years.
mm,
So being honest with yourself, trying finding what you enjoy doing. You don't have to love what you're doing, at least if it sparks joy. That's
mm,
it.
mm,
When I decided to take on the role of a scrum master, I was reading through what it is to be a scrum master. I talked to a bunch of people, and it excited me. I got up every morning. I was like, I can't wait to get this job. Can't wait. It was so exciting for me.
yeah.
And I still to this day enjoy it, because there's a huge part of it
Mm,
is about coaching.
mm,
And that coaching sparks joy in me
mm,
all the time.
yeah.
I still love coaching. Even though I'm now a public speaker and I'm talking on stages, I still love coaching. It's something that will never leave me, but I wouldn't have known if I didn't try it.
Mm,
And so for all those who are listening and who haven't taken the time to try something that they think they might like, go out and do it. There's
Mm.
nothing stopping you.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, when we say like, no one gonna make you happy, you have to make yourself happy. Yeah, it
Yeah.
comes like we discussed earlier, it comes from within, not from external factors. Like, oh no,
Yes.
there is like, but leaders can create an environment where employees can feel happiness. You know, the environment around us, or the leaders, they can create, even though we talk about leaderships and talk about the environment, the organization is quite a system where, you know, with the pressure we work with the deadlines or the stuff, ever evolving marketplace, ever evolving world we are living in, you know. But if we
Mhm.
have, like you mentioned, if we have the blueprint you mentioned,
Yes.
the tool you mentioned earlier, which you created, if we have that, if we can assess that to ourselves, okay, now we need to make sure we focus on impact or relationships. So that's the, like you mentioned, like culture where leaders can create the environment. So people probably won't want to leave then, because there is more joy to come in, because the environment is good, environment is safe.
Yes.
Right.
And the key to the happiness blueprint, and I've said this so many times in my talk, is
Mm.
that we need to change ourselves because we can't change others.
Yes,
And when we change
100%. Yeah.
ourselves,
Yeah.
we model that for others so
Yes.
that they can see what happiness might look like in their eyes.
Yes. 100%. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So using this tool, uh, how someone can assess themselves, or organizations can assess themselves where they are and what they need to do.
Yeah, great question. So I have developed a radar
Mm-hmm.
and using the impact model as the key foundation to it, and just using it as a guide. You know,
Mm-hmm.
where am I at on a scale from 0 to 3 when it comes to each element? And then going from there, you can look at it to say, okay, well, I need to, at a personal level, I need to work on these different things, these different elements, and these different elements I'm great at. So taking the lowest point and starting to move it upwards. So going from a 0 to a 1, or a 1 to a 2, whatever the case may be, focusing on the scale, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing happens on a team level, is
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, a team would join together and say, where do we want to focus on? Or let's rate ourselves on this radar and see where we fall under here. And when it comes to organizational level, I mean, you can do it one of two ways. You can take out the radar and use it on everyone, and then do an overall, um, I guess, balanced assessment.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can go from the leader's point of view, which is, I guess you could say, a less accurate point of view, and have them assess themselves on a radar, or the organization on a radar.
Mm-hmm.
So the radar will be available this week. So I don't know when this podcast will be out, but by the time this podcast comes out, the radar will be available in the Miro universe.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Brilliant. I'm planning to put this podcast live on probably Sunday or Monday. So hopefully I'll have a link which I can put it in the description. So listeners, check out
Yeah.
Miroverse is, yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Anthony. Thanks for this.
Yeah. No problem.
Yeah, something came up for you when you were mentioning about leaders can like assess themselves as well, because end of the day they need to create the environment, but they are humans themselves, so they
Yes.
need to be happy as well, right? So they every we not talking about just employees, we're talking about everyone in the organization, leaders as well.
Yes.
Yeah. You know. So I think this is where probably us as coaches and or leaders who are coaches as well, it helps to learn about this and mentor others in this happiness blueprint. What do you think about that?
Um, I think that when it comes to mentorship,
Mm,
um, I never really had a mentor
mm,
through probably my entire career. I mean, I've I've had people that I've looked up to, not necessarily mentors, but people that I've looked up to, and um, the bottom line is that you have to want to do it yourself. You have to want to change yourself. And if you don't want it, you could have the greatest mentors in the world, but nothing will change.
mm,
So, um, yeah, having just wanting to do things yourself, to look at learning and development. What is it that I want to work on? And using the blueprint, you're able to figure out those things that you want to work on and create your own experiments. I
mm,
mean, somebody asked me the other day, I want to work on my relationships with my team members. I was like, great. What have you done? They're like, nothing. I said, well, something simple that you can do is take someone out for a coffee.
mm.
It's a very friendly and unobtrusive way
Yeah.
of getting to know someone without having to be in an office environment and talking about work. Now all of a sudden it's casual.
Mm,
You know, you're talking about your friends, you're talking about what you're doing after work, uh, what sports you play, um, the things that your kids do after school, things like that.
mm. Very true. Very true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine like earlier in my career, I wish I had someone who could take me for coffee and then talk to me regarding, how I'm feeling, in my very early years of my career. I don't want to tell
Yeah.
my age, but but yeah, very early in my career, I wish I had someone,
Yes.
yeah. I remember one of the interviews I had. I said, "How can you prove your value?" I said, "Listen, it's just very hard, right? As leaders, as coaches, we just want to make people feel better, right? And sometimes it's really hard to measure that, right? I can, like you mentioned, we can take people on coffee. That's We are providing value on that, right? To make them so
Yeah.
they feel the joy, they feel someone is listening to them. That will probably make them happy as well. There's
Yeah.
no
Well,
value on it. Yeah.
you brought up the the thing about value.
Mm,
And I've had this question come up so many times. How do you put a value on happiness?
yeah.
And I tell them, well, how do you put a value on engagement?
Mm,
You know, when you have people that are disengaged in their work, that I Gallup brought up a statistic last year
yeah.
that was 77% of the global workforce
Mm,
is disengaged.
mm,
Yeah. That's a huge
huge.
number.
Yeah.
Huge number. So, what's the cost of that, right? And now you look at, investing in happiness, and if that increases engagement, then how much money are you going to be saving now?
Mm,
Because engaged employees will actually make the company money.
yeah. 100%.
So, I see it as happiness has a lot of value.
A lot of value indeed. And having a fulfilling career as well, it brings
Yeah,
happiness.
absolutely.
Mm,
Absolutely.
mm,
Um, like I said, I switched careers so many times,
mm,
and it was because, some of the times were due to just life circumstances. But once I started to understand that I could change careers and not be impacted by lifestyle, by money, whatever the case may be, then I could start looking at what makes me happy.
Mm.
Is it sparking joy for me? Am I
Yeah.
excited to show up every day?
Mm.
Like I said, you don't. It doesn't have to be your passion, but as long as you're liking what you do. If you don't want to go into work and you want to call in sick,
True.
that should be a good enough sign for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. I know you mentioned these Miroverse coming up as well, the tools coming up, especially now we live in a world of hybrid teams. How do you see this career happiness evolving in the future? More and more our teams are remote and or hybrid. How do you see that?
Yeah. So it's a great question. And I was talking to somebody else about this today.
Mm,
When it comes to the future of work, I see that, we went from a time where in COVID, everyone was remote.
mm,
And part of the happiness blueprint is about relationships. Relationships have shown statistically and scientifically that it boosts our happiness. It makes
mm,
people happier. I've also looked at the ways of the centenarians. Those are the people who live in the blue zones, who live over 100 years old. And that's the secret to their happiness as well. That's the secret to them living longer is relationships. So now you have to say to yourself, is complete remote work, and I know I'm going to have a lot of people pushing back on this, but
yeah. Yeah.
complete remote work, it's not sustainable. It
Mm,
really isn't.
yeah.
Hybrid I see as a good happy medium where people can work from home, they can do what they need to do
Mm,
for themselves, for their families, and get their work done, but bringing that relationship or those relationships back to the office or some sort of meeting place that gives not only happiness, it inspires communication, it
mm,
inspires collaboration, and people just have a better connection. When you talk to somebody over, remotely, it's nothing like talking to somebody face to face.
100%.
We all know that.
Yes.
So how is work going to be any different?
Mm,
It's not. We'd like to think it will be, but it's not. And this is where relationships do matter, and we need to take that into consideration when it
mm,
comes to working from home and working from the office. I'm not saying that we need to go into the office 5 days a week. I'm just saying that there needs to be time set aside for those relationships to flourish.
yeah. Very true. You know, this reminded me something. I don't know who told me. Or I've read somewhere. You know that they said relationships happens at the coffee machine in the office
Yeah.
when you come out of meeting and then you walking towards your desk.
Yes.
They don't happen on the Teams because you just switch off, leave, and gone. Right? Or Zoom, you end the meeting and you're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's exactly what happens.
Mm, mm,
We used to call it water cooler talk.
that's it.
Yeah, because we would have a water cooler in the
Yeah.
office.
Yeah.
Everyone would go there for water, and,
Yes.
there'd be a lineup, and
Yeah.
sometimes people would stick around, they'd
Yeah.
have conversations, and then other people would come,
Yeah.
and they'd join in on the conversation, and
Mm,
it was a
mm,
great time,
yeah.
and there'd be, like, 15, 20 minutes
Mm,
of chatter.
mm,
Be fun because
yeah.
people would connect. And
Yes.
next thing you know, it's like, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to the pool hall down the street. later on, did you guys want to join me after work?
Mm,
Yeah, sure.
mm,
And now you're having a bonding relationship that doesn't happen
yeah.
in the office,
Yes.
and you're not talking about work.
Yeah.
Again, you're talking about what matters to you.
Mm,
How would you know if somebody brewed beer or
mm,
baked bread if
mm.
you've never talked to them outside of, just the work chatter?
Very true. Very true. And this is where leaders can help creating the environment, right? And I think I know, like you mentioned, the hybrid is the way to go. Looking at what happened,
Yes.
COVID pandemic, and God knows what could happen in the future. Touch wood. Hopefully, we'll all be fine. So, but yeah, so you do need human connection. We humans, we do need the connection. You rightly said we do need to collaborate. You need to create those relationships. I'm feeling more motivated to go to work next week again. we, I go twice a week, but yeah, but
Amazing.
it's good fun to go and see people. Talk to them.
Totally.
It's brilliant. Yeah,
Yes.
and not have the camera off on the Zoom meeting or or a Teams meeting.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
That's another big one
mm,
is, you know, seeing people face to face.
yeah,
Just looking at someone, you can
yeah,
tell
yeah.
whether or not they're happy to see you. You can tell
Exactly.
whether or
Yeah.
not, what they're saying is true,
Mm,
or you can tell, just by their body language. These things you can't really get
mm,
over a Zoom or a Teams
yeah.
call, especially when most people have their cameras off. Let's
Yeah.
just be real about
Yeah.
this.
We have to be real, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I have a firm rule that for every meeting, I have my camera on.
Mm,
For every meeting. Unless it's like a high profile meeting where, we have executives and it's just the executives talking, then I turn off my camera. But every other meeting, I have camera on.
mm.
And some people, they feel the need. They're like, "Oh, well, Anthony has his camera on, so I'm gonna turn on mine." But most
Yeah.
cases,
Yeah.
the camera's off.
Yeah.
And we have to take this into consideration is that
Mm,
if you're
mm,
gonna have your camera off, then what type of
mm.
relationship do you wanna build with
Yeah.
people?
Yeah. Yeah. And this is probably, your tool can help in understanding this and bringing that to the forefront, so everyone can start talking about this. What makes us happy? What career happiness means?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Okay, so we're nearly at the end, but I want to ask you. Obviously the resource coming up soon, but is there anything else you can uh, share from your experience? Our listeners can delve deeper into the career happiness or read about it, watch something. Anything else you can recommend?
The best thing that I can recommend for anyone's career happiness is journaling.
Mm,
You can listen to all the podcasts in the world, you can
mm,
listen to all the happiness experts,
yeah,
but we know as coaches, Rohit, that we have the answers ourselves.
100%. Very true, Anthony. Very true. Yeah.
So when we take the time
Mm,
to sit down and journal and express how we feel about our jobs, about how we feel at the end of each day coming from work, we're honest with ourselves.
mm,
And in order to move forward and be happier, we have to do things that make us happier. And if it's not making us happier, it's not contributing to our happiness factor. And so journaling is the perfect opportunity for us to do that.
yeah.
Like I said, I've read so many books. I've read, you know, books and listen to podcasts and TED Talks and all that. But in the end, the only people that can teach us personal happiness is ourselves. We know exactly what we need to make us happier.
Yeah.
So take a pen, take a piece of paper, get an iPad, doesn't matter. Write down exactly how you feel, what you are doing to contribute to your happiness. And when it comes to career happiness, use the blueprint if you need to, but you have all the answers. I know everyone's looking for a shortcut or, um, a silver bullet, but there
Yeah,
isn't one.
yeah. There
There
isn't
isn't
one,
one.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Journaling is the key.
Mm, mm,
Um, Another thing I did want to mention though is if you want to become happier, there's a great exercise that was done through a psychologist by the name of Dr. Martin Seligman. He's the
mm,
father of positive psychology.
mm,
And it was an exercise where you write down 3 things that made you happy that day and why. That's it.
mm,
Every single day you write down 3 things. And what will happen over time is it will change the neural pathways in your brain to make you happier.
mm.
And it has been said that it has a lasting effect of up to 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll try
Journaling
that.
is
Mm,
key.
mm. Journey is definitely, yeah. I know you mentioned, yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, I'll definitely try that. You know,
Yes.
the three
I mean,
things. Yeah.
me and my family, we do it every day. We
Wow.
we don't write it down, but
But
we
talk.
verbally
Mm,
talk
mm,
about it
mm.
over dinner. What's your moments of gratitude?
Yeah.
And when we share that, we feel good about it.
Mm,
And it helps bring us to a place where we're happier.
mm. That made me think about the same relationships.
Yeah,
Mm,
exactly.
mm. Brilliant, Anthony. Um, I will definitely try that. Thanks for sharing this.
Of
Uh,
course, of
yeah.
course.
So if our listeners want to learn more about Smiling Bow Tie or your happiness blueprint, how can they reach to you? Or are you doing any workshops in the future for, explaining people more deeper in sense into it?
Yeah, so I have some workshops coming up.
Mm.
The Happiness Blueprint workshop. If you want to know more about the Happiness Blueprint, go to smilingbowtie.com. You want to get a hold of me, smilingbowtie.com, or you can look for me, Antoni T, on LinkedIn. I practically live on LinkedIn, so you can also get a hold But, I mean, if you wanna go
Yeah,
old school, you can
yeah.
reach me at Antony@smilingbowtie.com.
There you go. There you go. You can reach anyway, right? There are a lot of
Yeah,
channels.
yeah, exactly.
No, thank you very much, Anthony. Thanks for making this episode a great way for us to learn about career happiness or happiness in general and how we can get better and look more deeper inside us to find that happiness within us.
Thanks for having me, Rohit.
Really gratitude. This is my one point. You said mention three gratitude point. This is my one point. So thanks to you today. So
Thank you so much.
thank you very much. So thanks, listener. Thanks for watching this another episode. And I would like to thank Abhyuda Global Course Circle again for supporting us in this podcast. Keep smiling and be happy. Thank you very much.